So as chair of the Alliance Steering Committee, I wanted just to make a few closing remarks. And I reflect on the first statement in the call to action that really refers to the Sustainable Development Goals, which I think is very important, and the role the workforce has in meeting the Sustainable Development Goals. And I think about what Dr. Golden said this morning: the workforce can change the trajectory. She was referring to AIDS, but it can change the trajectory of many problems that we face. And so, you know, the question is, how do we do that? What brings about the change that we believe is needed? And we've gone through the day, and many of those things that we can do, you know, the personal narratives that we were just talking about, support systems, coordination, regulations, all the different things that we've gone through today that can help build that capacity so we can change the trajectory. But I go back to the Sustainable Development Goals because those are the outcomes. And I will say that I very proudly wear my pin that I picked up at the UN. In my classes, my global social work class, I teach the Sustainable Development Goals. And I have an activity where every year when I teach this course, I take all my magazines that I've collected through the year, including my Smithsonian, the New Yorker, all these magazines. And I have the students develop a collage. And they're supposed to develop a collage that reflects the Sustainable Development Goals in practice, how they see them. And they're really beautiful posters that they always do. But I think about the Sustainable Development Goals because those are our outcomes. That's what we want the world to look like. And what Daniela said is exactly what I wanted to say. We, in my field of practice in social work, are great at talking about problems. We, mapping assessments, the violence against children studies, these are very important to document what the problems are. But as Daniela said, what do we want the world to look like without those problems? What are the solutions? In my field of practice, one of the things that social workers, people working in the field, have a hard time shifting to, okay, what is it you want to be different? How will you know things are different? And we have a strategy that we use, one of the techniques we use that I teach in case management, to try to help move that discussion around what solutions can be, is a strategy that reflects change theory, and many of you may know it. It's the miracle question. And, you know, you fall asleep tonight, you wake up tomorrow, and your problem's solved. What will it look like? How will you know it's solved? And so really, I think following what Daniela said, really beginning to be able to have that picture. What do we want to be different? And one of the things that I run up against in workforce, some of the strengthening, some of the projects I've done, particularly around case management, is, okay, what do you want practice to look like? What's your practice model? What are the values behind your practice model? And so I think these are the kinds of discussions and is really taking those Sustainable Development Goals and beginning to look at, okay, what is it that we want to be different? And I really liked the language around closing the implementation gap. And I usually talk about the gap between policy and practice, but I like that language around the implementation gap. So I just wanted to make those kind of reflect on some of the things that they were saying in terms of moving this discussion forward, and really reflecting on some of those positive practices that we in the workforce can contribute. I had the opportunity the one other thing I wanted to say about this is that it is political. It's a political tool, and that's another area that I think in terms of skills that that we in the social services workforce really need to learn more about. And I had the opportunity working in Malawi on a project developing a curriculum for certificate and diploma programs. And one of the things that we did is I worked with an economist who costed out the implementation of that particular curriculum. So it was a great tool. I had never done a project where it had that component to it. And so we were actually able to say, okay, this is what it's going to cost to do this and this and this. So it really added another level of information to that particular proposal. So those are my comments, my just a few thoughts I was having. But in closing, I really want to thank everybody for being here. And I would like to thank all of the speakers and the panelists. And I would like to thank the Alliance staff very much. Nicole, Natia, stand up, please, so we can all give you a round of applause. And Amy, please. I know how hard you've worked on that this year, so we really do appreciate it. And also, I would like to recognize the steering committee members, if you would please stand as well. Yes. And those in the learning, lunchtime learning exchange and the table host, I want to thank you as well for that. And we have a special thanks to FHI 360 for all of the logistics and how smoothly all of the webcast and AV and everything went. So we really appreciate that. And also just to everybody here, both in the room as well as virtually. So thank you very much. Done.